for it. Okay, welcome to the Missoula Public Library. Tonight we have a demonstration of fly tying. We have two distinguished Missoula area fly tyers, and Jim and Doug. And I would like to present them with a little gift for honoring us tonight. It's a gift that says the Missoula Public Library on it, and it's a quote by Georges Louis Borges. I have always imagined that paradise would be a kind of library. So apparently he knows libraries that don't find. We do. So thank you very much, guys, and let's get started here.
Okay, my name is Jim Kelly, and I teach at Hellgate High School. I'm a health enhancement teacher, and one of my teaching comrades is Doug Lindstedt, also teaches health enhancement. And Hellgate High School received a grant from the Future Fisherman Foundation last year. And the Future Fisherman Foundation, we went to a workshop in Alabama for several days, and then it afforded us to buy fly tying materials, equipment, a classroom size of 30 complete sets of fly tying equipment, and also 30 fly rods, and probably about 12 or 15 spin outfits, bait casting outfits, and things like that. And last year we did fly tying with all of our sophomore classes, and we did fly casting with all our sophomore classes, and our leisure sports classes have taken the class also, and they've gone on several trips, 2 last year and 2 this year, and both of those were Frenchtown Pond for our first outing, just to kind of see how things went. We were quite sure about the legalities of taking high school students on a moving river. We've since found out that it's okay as long as they're supervised, and we haven't had any mishaps yet. And then the other one was to Georgetown Lake, where we know that that's a very heavily fished fishery, and afforded them the chance to catch a lot of fish. Unfortunately, we go the week after fishing season opens, and the fish are still spawning right now. And here we are, the end of May, first part of June. But it was both trips have been very successful. So what I'd like to do is maybe have you guys tied before?
I did start tying.
Okay, good. And if you? Okay, good. So we weren't quite sure how many people were going to show up or what their expertise were. So we're going to try to tie 2 flies tonight, just a woolly bugger, which is a very easy, basic fly, and then maybe work into some dry flies, like maybe a gray hackle peacock, which is very easy to tie. Both flies can be tied with 3 pieces of material, and so ones that we start off with our kids at the high school, and we'll kind of go from there. So I shouldn't have to talk too much about equipment, right? I mean, you've got, maybe for the people out there, we've got a bobbin, which holds the thread. We've got a pair of scissors. There's a couple different types you can use. We've got hackle pliers. We've got a bodkin, which is used to pick out materials or apply head cement or things like that. And a material stacker, hair stacker. So those are the basic materials, and I resigned myself a couple years ago. I was not going to fish with dry flies just because, they say 90% of the feeding that goes on in waters are subsurface. So I've resigned myself to fish nymphs, and I'm going to try to hold true to that this coming fishing season also. It's a lot more fun to fish dry flies, but like I say, you catch much more fish once you get proficient at nymphing. So what we'd like to do is maybe just demonstrate one fly. We've got the materials, and we'll go through each stage of the fly. Didn't know we were going to have experienced tyers, so
No, I'm not experienced. It's been quite a while since I've tied a fly, but I used to tie quite a bit, so.
It'll come back to you then.
I hope it's like riding a bicycle,
Oh,
that
it is.
once you're in, you never forget.
The biggest thing that I've found, and Doug and I have talked about this quite a bit, is proportions. Proportions are so important, and the quality of your materials. If you're going to tie it with materials that are substandard, your flies are going to look substandard. And you could go to any lengths or anything to, spend a lot of money on hackles and things like that. Doug's will pass out a handout that we use at the high school.
I think it's
handy.
fun to get a hackle. I don't know what it
Yeah,
is.
you gotta know what to look for. And I could maybe help you a little bit, Doug can help you a little bit about what to look for.
Well, I kind of know what to look for, I just have a hard time finding it, like it's work wings and guards and just the hackles are real long, it seems like. And I do a lot of dry flies, so
Sure.
I like them real tight. And
Some of those, like Jim showed me this spring, the size of the fly you're trying to tie is right on the hackle itself that you're buying, so you can kind of size it in that way.
Right, there's some stuff out. Where is that stuff?
Whiting.
Yeah. And which really helps the beginning tire, I think, and they're pretty affordable. You could buy
These here.
yeah, well, I bought a big neck.
yeah, there's two different
I
types
found a
of,
really big grizzly hackle. I couldn't find it. Glued down and-
yeah, see, now this is a Hoffman's number 2.
Yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah, and that's good stuff.
Most people have good grizzly hackle, but like blacks and browns.
Yeah, they're hard to come by. And most of the time you're gonna get, like whiting hackles are probably the best in the market right now. And they dye a lot of that stuff, and we've got a couple that are here that are,
Got browns and greens.
yeah, browns and greens. And
You're good stuff, right?
well, this stuff is fairly old, but, if you're gonna start tying, this is what I'd,
Well, I bought them. I've got big ones like this. Grizzly, and I got some browns and
Yeah.
a black, but the black, like I said, it's long.
If you're doing smaller dry flies, these are really handy because they're all about the same.
Yeah.
They stay really consistent.
and these are called whiting 100s, and you're supposed to be able to tie 100 flies off this. And it costs what, $11, $13, something like that. And you could tie like four or 5 flies off one strand.
Yeah, that, like the one I bought like this, I think it was like $33 or something.
Yeah, they're pretty pricey.
Yeah.
I've got a neck in there that was, I better not say, my wife would find out. But it was pretty expensive.
Yeah, they do get expensive.
The thing about these is you have to gauge the size yourself.
Yeah.
So, and if you're going to tie for yourself, it's not that big of a deal. But if you want to tie commercially eventually, so much faster. If you just,
No,
like when I was tying commercially a little bit, I'd take these and I get all my 16s and 18s and stuff like that and put them all together. I'd gauge
I
them.
read that somewhere where you can go through the whole neck
Mhm.
and make little packages like this for like.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, save some time.
And time is money when you're tying.
Yeah,
And so,
I don't know if I'll ever go commercially, but.
well, it's okay if you can sit down and tie like, 12 dozen flies or,
Yeah.
things like that. And the best time to tie is like in the wintertime. I mean, that's when we tie and we try to hit our tying classes at the high school right just before spring comes in because,
So then they have the flies for the season.
yeah, and curriculum.
Jim, there's a place out of Denver that I buy most of my flies from, and God, they're dirt cheap. Now, is this because they're using inexpensive material? They seem to hold together pretty well, though. I think I mentioned this beaded prince, and God, I'll bet I caught 12, 15 trout on that thing, and it still looked just as good as when I started. So, and I assume that the cheaper the hackle and things like that, it falls apart on you when a fish hits it once or twice. Is that correct?
Yeah,
That and the tactics you use to tie the fly. There's a few things you can do to make them a lot more durable as you tie them, that I know Jim has a couple good tips that you'll hear tonight that'll help them hold together too.
Okay.
But
Because I just thought, God, to be quite honest, I don't have the patience to tie. And I just soon go and buy these ties, flies at 80 cents a piece. And I really came to the conclusion that you tie flies because of the love of tying flies. It's not really cheap. I mean, till you start buying all your equipment and everything, you got
takes
a
a
lot
while.
of money tied up in that
Sure.
thing.
it takes quite a while before you pay them off, so you do
Yeah,
have to enjoy
so-
the process.
Yeah, so anyway, I just came to the conclusion, hey, I'm gonna buy, found this guy out of Denver, and they were pretty cheap, and they seem to hold together, so, anyway.
A lot of the flies that that are cheaper in the market are either tied like in India or China.
Yeah,
And they take some shortcuts, they'll put a half hitch in there or two and call it good, and like when they tie it off, and they don't want to spend the time maybe putting a whip finish on with the fingers or with the whip finish tool. So, but then you find places that have local tires that are doing it as a hobby and selling to shops, which are very good quality. But most fly shops, good fly shops, are pretty particular about the flies that they're bringing in.
Well,
So-
they sell them
Yeah.
for $2 to $3.
Yeah, you
There,
can.
and you can get them at Bob Ward's for 79 cents, like he was saying. But
Yeah, it's
so if you take like an Orvis, I know they get top dollar, but are they really, they give those tires specifications and say, this is what you will tie these to, or do they go more off of their name than anything else in getting people to buy those flies?
well, they just contract people to tie them,
Okay,
basically.
but I'd have to think,
Oh, established tires for sure.
yeah, I was gonna say, I would have to think with the reputation Orvis tries to maintain and your perception, they've got to be pretty good tires, you would think.
Yeah, I would think they would be. But you're paying
If you're
for
ever in Livingston, Montana, you go into Dan Bailey's fly shop, and they have commercial tires in there that
Do
are
they?
amazing to watch.
They don't have they used to have ladies in the back that
Yeah.
were just one big room, and that's all they did was tie, but
Yeah.
they haven't had those in quite a few years. They import a lot of their flies or have local
Oh, they
people
do
tie
now?
them. Yeah.
So my dad used to take me in there and we'd watch. And it was amazing how many they could do and how nice they could do them.
I was at Yellowstone a couple years ago and went into West Yellowstone and it was called Blue Angler or something. Does that ring a bell at all down there?
There's a couple, 3 or 4 really good shops in West Yellowstone.
Yeah, and he said he paid he said, I've got 2 or 3 tires and they're the only people that I'll allow to bring a fly into this shop, so anyway, I think you're right. I think these really good shops make sure they have good tires that probably they insist they use good hackle and
Right.
thread and do it all right.
Yeah, it's depends on the fly too, how durable they are. There's some things you can do, like the one we're going to tie tonight is going to be like a woolly bugger, and the woolly bugger is a fly that you can tie it for speed, and then you're going to have a fly that you're going to use, and you probably catch maybe, depending how big they are and stuff, but you can catch like 4 to maybe 8 fish on them before they fall apart. And then there's certain things you can do to make them a little more durable. I think there's like 3 ways that I tie my woolly buggers and stuff that make them more. I tie the regular one just for speed, and I'll tie like one with a brass. I don't tie down the hackle in the back conventionally, like the conventional woolly bugger. I'll tie the hackle in the front and go back through, and then bring the wire up through the brass wire up through that, so you don't tie it down the back. But usually what happens is they bite through the hackle itself, because I tie my hackle in from the tips, from the tip of the hackle, and then wrap it forward. So I like it to look symmetrical. I don't like it to look where it's big in the back and comes down small in the front. And they're not as durable. But when you do with the wire, it really makes it a lot better. It makes it a little more durable. And then you can also weave the hackle around the chenille. And they're not quite as good looking, but they're more durable than just a regular wrap. So, good question. I don't know. Like I said, we want to tie 2 flies tonight. Woolly bugger and the gray hackle peacock, really easy flies to tie. And then maybe talk about some of the techniques. Some of the techniques that I have used or Doug has used will work for you, but whatever easiest for you is the best, because everyone's going to pick up their little idiosyncrasies and things that they find to do easier than most that work for them.
I always use the tool at the end of my barking for ½ inch to
Yeah.
tie my thing on.
Yeah,
I have a whip finish, but it's a little different than it's like 2 hooks.
Yeah.
It's called and there's 2 different names for
this is a Mattarelli,
it. Yeah.
and then
The other one is
you can also tie it the same with your fingers.
yeah, just wrap it around.
Yeah.
and pull it through.
Which is what I do, because I'm not smart enough to figure out the whip finisher.
Yeah.
He showed me about
I've
6
watched
times.
the video on it.
Do you tie
I
all
still
your
don't
own
get
flies
it.
down?
Pretty much now. I'd like to say I'm a better fisherman than I am, but I am tying most of what I use. And
Just started
Gradually getting
2
better.
weeks ago. My grandfather gave me his little kit.
like Jim says, I'm trying to get better at the nymphing
About 2
and
days
the,
ago, I got my
and,
first
the
fish
nymphs,
off on my fly.
All right.
Yeah, but rocker.
which is a little
It's
bit
kind of fun,
different
isn't it?
Yeah, it was-
than
it was
working the
fun.
dry fly. But
So the hatch
it's
going
fun.
on up
It's
there?
been fun training
Yeah, well, the
myself.
salmon flies are. I didn't tie a salmon fly. I just been tying dry flies, but I caught it off a cripple up there, so it was just a little brown trout. But it was my first fish off my
Oh,
own
neat.
fly, so it was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
Well, first off, you want to put that the hook in, so it's fairly stout, and you want to dress the hook, and just take your thread. And for the people who are just beginning, we could probably
Go ahead and get a hook going.
Yeah, here's the bugger hooks. What we teach the kids is you want to, if you're right-handed, obviously hold the bobbin in your right hand, hold the thread in your left hand, and you're going to place that thread right across in front of you. So it's just like you're just going to apply it right there. It's called dressing a hook. And then you're just going to wrap around. And as you wrap, you want to wrap back towards the bend of the hook. Now, on your little handout sheet, we said that proportions are really important, and if you take a look at your sheet, you've got to know the parts of the hook, because that's the part where proportions start. And like on this nymph that we're going to be tying, basically a woolly bugger is a leech. Isn't that right?
It's whatever you want it to be, Mr. Kelly.
And
They work.
and you've got the eye of the hook, obviously, you've got the shank of the hook, and just where the shank starts to bend, you've got the bend of the hook, obviously, and then you've got the barb. And those are position points. Oh, thanks, Jim.
Oh, you,
I forgot mine. No, I'm okay.
okay, good. Yes, I do.
And
I wish I'd have brought mine.
and you want to take that thread right back to the just where the hook starts to bend.
You got a thread in.
Yeah, I do.
This might have a barb in it.
Did it break right away? Is that 6/0 or 3/0?
That's a 6/0.
I don't, hopefully that'll.
I see. Semi.
What do
Kept
you need,
snapping, kept
Yeah,
snapping.
Some more thread.
I'm gonna get. Do you have a marabou there?
There's a little bit.
There we go. I mean, we have a bunch of shops in town that are excellent shops for materials and information, and almost to the shop, they're great about, helping you with a technique tying or anything. They're just outstanding. I don't think I've gone into a shop that hasn't really been helpful to me. I don't know all the answers and I don't know all the techniques, but I've been doing it for quite a while, and I really enjoy it. It's kind of like an art form with me. A lot of times I'll tie just to tie,
It's
and
an end in itself.
I'll read about a certain fly or whatever, and then we'll think I'm going from there. I'm going to grab the chenille here.
if you want to.
Yeah, I'll end up that one.
Our green looks a little better right now, to be honest with you, but you can start with that.
I'll go black. What's nice about, the vices that you have are a good beginner vice. They're made by Griffin, and they don't have a rotary head on them. And this is my first rotary vice, and
I think it's sweet.
I really like it, yeah. I mean, you don't waste any material, depending how you tie, but you want to tag that chenille. We're going to use chenille for the body, but you want to tag that so you have thread sticking out. So just take your fingernail and you're going to strip it back. And then there's a couple different techniques you can use to tie it on. A lot of people can just go up and just tie it on. There's also the pinch method, where you take it up, you're going to lay this on top of the hook shank. You're going to take it up, you're going to pinch it with your fingers, bring it around, and then pull up. It just makes it a little bit easier for some people. And I like to give myself a little bit of room between the chenille and that thread before I start, so that it's not all bunched up right there. And once you get the
Are you going to watch?
Yeah, I'm going to.
You're going to try in a minute, though, so I'm going to go ahead
Yeah.
and set some of this out as he talks. You don't have to, but you may well.
But once you start tying nymphs, or once you start tying dry flies, the technique for tying most of them are the same anyway. I mean, once you get that basic technique down, where you start in the back and you're going to work forward, tie all your materials in, work forward, and tie them off. There are some flies that I'm starting to tie now that are a little bit different. And there's some excellent books out there. Jack Dennis has a great beginner book. And
I got a couple the other day from the library that are pretty good.
yeah, and Randall Kaufman has some, I think, outstanding books. The picture plates are in color, and they're really good. I think I did bring them.
Did you find out about this from those
Rubber
after the
bands.
book?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
These
And
are
then, my wife's in there in a bit too, so she reminded me about it.
these are great books. Tying dry flies, and then tying nymphs. And I picked one of these up in the Safeway section, where they find those 25% off books. So you get a $35 or $36 book for maybe $20 or something like that. But what Kaufman does with this is he starts off, and he has a series of flies that you can tie in here, the whole book. Then he has a fly plate in the back, and he gives you all the materials you need to tie all the flies in that book, and you can start with very simple flies and work forward. And it's really helped the kids a lot. We use this as a reference. We'll start off with the real easy ones, and then start going up to the harder flies. And it's a recipe book, and it really works well. Okay, so we're going to take some marabou, and what is marabou? It's immature turkey, I think.
It's fuzzy.
Yeah, it's hard to work with sometimes, and this stuff is black as dyed, but usually on tails, I like that my tails, sometimes you can make them too long. I tie, my fishing partner up at Georgetown Lake is 84, and he has one certain fly that he likes, and so we made some adaptation. He came up the cabin, we were tying, and he was saying, this is what I want. He says, if fish come up and they bite a certain way, and he says, I think that hackle is too stiff and it's hitting the fly and pushing it forward. They can't get a bite on it. So I started tying these with a hackle halfway up, and that's what he uses. And he's the one that complained about flies not being real durable. So we started doing some other things that made it a little more durable for him. And he's probably the best. When I go fishing, I go with him, but he's probably the best fisherman I've been with. So proportion-wise, we want to make this tail about a shank length long. So you're going to go up and just measure. You're going to pinch measure that shank length. Okay? Then you take that reference point, and you're going to place it right down on the hook. A lot of people have problems. So I measure my length, then I'll take that length from my reference point, and I'm just going to put it right in the hook. Part of the problem that people have is when they start wrapping that material, it rolls on them. So if you use that pinch method, now I'm going to go to my right hand. I'm going to come up, I'm going to pinch, come back around, and then pull straight up. And it won't roll as much. But I always like to hold mine just in case.
So a couple of wraps before you pull it tight?
You can pull it tight, then a couple wraps. If you're going to pinch it, come back around, and then you're going to go around and then come straight up. So you're pulling up on that.
I think they can call a slide too, hanging off the side.
Yeah, let it roll over. Yeah. That's okay. When you start working with like deer hair, elk hair, it gets a little harder and stuff. And so if you have any questions, yeah, hop in there. Doug, you want to throw some stuff in your...
I'm listening. I'm a little bit unorthodox in some of my ways.
Yeah, he's
so
left-handed.
I'm trying to learn too. But I wrap with my right hand.
Okay, so now I've tied down that marabou. I'm going to go right up to the eye of the hook. And sometimes you might want to throw a half hitch in. Just come up, throw a half hitch in, or you can use a half hitch tool.
Are you ever leaving the marabou in up to the front of up to the eye before you cut it?
I do. I kind of cut mine a little bit, and I like that because it's a fuller body. We're using medium chenille, but
See that thing?
it kind of makes it break. Maybe grab another one there.
Is it,
It's alright, I can tie it on.
there's some 3 here if you want.
I don't think it's a thread.
I think it's a bobbin.
Oh, it's
I
a
think
bobbin.
it's a bobbin.
Got a burn in there or something. Let's try that one.
So you can come up. See, I've never had all these little fancy things in a vise before. You've got, you've got a material clip. You've got the thread holder. You've got, a nice little hook gauge, hackle gauge on it. After you tie it well, you don't even need that. Just because you're going to look at the fly, you're tying a 16 or an 18, by just looking at that hackle what it's going to be. And what's nice about these rotary vices is that you don't have to wrap the material. You can save material too. So I just leave it on the card, and I'll just start wrapping. And it makes the body so much nicer. We actually probably should go back. We want to put hackle on these, don't we?
Yeah, I gave him a hackle.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Let me go
Get
back.
that started.
So if you're doing it the other way, you're doing it the old way, all you got to do is,
That rotary is nice, isn't it?
very nice.
Really
And
good.
you
Watch
got to
those
come back
guys
up and do
on-
this stuff.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
it's Sunday morning. I got those two guys that tie flies.
Leroy Hyatt and the lady.
Yeah, and he's got that spoon vice. And no, there's no lady on there. It's just two old guys.
Yeah, Dave Engelbretson died.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
And then they have a lady, I'm trying to think of her name. Very knowledgeable, I enjoy watching that show.
Yeah, and that's the first time I saw a spoon vice. So
Yeah, it's neat. So where do we have our hackle, Doug?
There's some here. It's not the greatest in the world, but
I'm going to go with something like this, I think. I'm going to go with the grizzly hackle.
saddle.
Yeah. It doesn't, what's nice about this fly is you don't have to use good materials.
There's that moose mane you were looking for that day.
And what I like to do, like I said before, is I like to tie these in with by the tips because it makes it more proportional. It starts off in the back, small hackle, and as it goes towards the front.
So you just start the tie in here.
That's what I do. And
Is it a wet fly or
that,
buggers or a wet
that's
fly?
just a saddle hackle, and it could be both
No,
wet
like
and
the
dry.
fly itself.
Oh, it's a wet fly.
It's a wet fly.
Yeah. So what I do is I'll take my hackle and I'll grab the tip of it. Then I'll just kind of pull those hackles back away from the quill. Now the hackle has two sides to it. There's a shiny side and a dull side. Depending on how you want your hackle to go. If you want your hackle to spray forward, okay, then you can tie with the shiny side facing back. as you tie it in. If you want it to come back and go back as you tie, then tie the shiny side forward.
Wasn't it?
And it doesn't make very much difference. It's just personal preference. A lot of guys will put the hackle on, and they'll use real big webby hackle. And the webby hackle, what they'll do is they'll take a match or a cigarette or one of those, and just, some of the old guys I fish with will take a cigarette and just burn the hackle down a little bit. And we probably should talk about hackles a little bit. This is a neck hackle. And the neck hackle is on the chicken right here. And this is a saddle hackle. And the saddle hackle is on the back of the neck and down on the sides. And you can buy saddle hackle at, that's what I buy anymore, just because this thing's pretty old. You can see it's worn out in the middle, and I'll use this for like wings and things now, the smaller stuff. But it's a lot more affordable, I think, to buy saddle hackle. And like I say, Whiting is putting out some great stuff now. Okay, so now I take that where I strip that back, and I'm going to lay that right on top of the shank of the hook, maybe about a 45-degree angle. And I'm just going to wrap. And then I'm going to take my thread all the way up to the eye. Kind of got ahead of myself a little bit while ago. And to tie a half inch in there to keep it from falling off. Especially with the rotary vise, because as you turn that vise, your thread is going to move up and tighten on the hook. Okay, so we're going to take our chenille, and I can either use usually I like to take one wrap behind my hackle, and I can either use my rotary vise, or I can just wrap it by hand. Take the thread.
I'm having a hard time getting the rotary function to work on this one.
You haven't got the deluxe model, Jim.
He won't let me use the rotary either, Jim. So
And then one of the easier ways I've found to cut your material off is a lot of people cut them off on the side. They have problems because they'll cut their thread. One of the easier ways is just to take that material, hold it straight up, and go right up the eye at that angle and just clip it. Okay? Then you take your hackle itself and just wrap it forward. You want to kind of space it so it's about the same. And again, bring that hackle straight up and wrap around. Take your scissors, go right up the eye of the hook and clip.
Now,
Okay.
Jim, you said you nymph a lot, so are you working your woolly as a wet fly then?
Yeah.
As a nymph? Okay.
Yeah.
I see a lot of guys that drag these behind their boat, 45-degree angle. Just
No,
do it really
as a matter of fact, if you put a half hitch is
long.
a
Really
good
effective.
technique if you're tying good half hitches. Most people don't tie good half hitches. So
Mine are pretty good.
yeah, Doug
Ties serious.
One come off on the end.
yeah, do you put head cement on too?
Yeah, just on the side.
Yeah, like commercial tires, a lot of times won't put head cement on the heads of their flies just because it's an extra step. They do a whip finish. I can teach you how to do the whip finish with the hand. It's pretty easy actually.
Yeah, I'm gonna-
And all you do is another thing that's nice about a rotary vise, you can take that thing up and you can.
Oh, quit already with the rotary vise.
Yeah, you guys be going out there tomorrow. I'm gonna get a commission on it. Okay, maybe to start off, you might want to put a half hitch in there just so you don't lose it. We'll dig out some of those.
How do you do a half pitch with your finger? I just use that tool all the time.
No, the tool is just as good, but Doug's the man with the half hitch.
Basically just crossing it, getting it under.
Let's see.
just rolling it together.
Now, do you have your fingers toward you as you go or away?
No, I'm left-handed. I
God,
start with my fingers
Here, let me do,
So you just get it on there.
on top,
um,
cross it.
yeah. I
And
don't
then
think
put your
it's not
finger
that
right there.
complicated. Get too much wrapping around there. Let's see. I'll do,
There you go.
and then underneath,
Oh, okay.
and then grab that, and I just wrap it around a number of times. And then I'd cut it.
So this guy's holding out on us. He
Yeah.
has quite the expertise when it comes to
But-
tying these flies.
That's a
my
good way to do it.
father-in-law right there.
Try it.
Showed me how to do that.
That's a good way to do it, but an easy way, it's not faster, just take it like this,
Yeah.
fingers towards you, like that, put it in the X, bring it down like that, hold it, pull the finger out, just pull.
So just like that,
Mm-hmm. Put the X over the top,
like that.
yep, pull the one finger out. There you-
Like
But you want to come back and like that, put it right in the top, pull that finger out, hold it, and pull it. Right across the top. There you go. Seems kind of awkward right now, but it's, there you go, good, excellent. Actually, that black hackle looks pretty good on there. It's not- That saddle hackle.
I gave him a good one.
Yeah, I like that.
It'll save you a pickup step of a piece of equipment.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I had those other ones.
Okay, good, got it. Now, the whip finish with the hand is pretty much the same as that. What I do is I'll go away from me, this way. I'm going to go away, I'm going to come around and turn my hand, turn it once in my hand, and place that, the X right on the eye, or right back of the eye. I'm going to come here, then I'm going to turn, there, turn, 3 or 4 times, and then hold again and just pull. Or, you know,
Each head on this one.
that's all right. But then like the whip finisher, the Machiavelli, I mean, you just take it and hook it on the hook, put it in the groove, turn the whole thing sideways, so you make a triangle, and just turn it. Bring it up, slide it down, and you're done.
So, just hook it. And then sideways.
Yeah, I've got to be behind it.
I always seem to be too tight.
How you doing, Doug? Is it looking good?
I'm practicing knots too, so there's a lot of thread there. but-
Actually,
I need a little more practice
I've
with
done better
those.
than I've ever done it. Because it
There you
always
go.
seems
always
like I
have to
have,
laugh. People that know how to do something
there you
says,
go.
oh, it's real easy.
Excellent, there you
so
go.
I would do
And,
this.
To the person
and
that
then-
That's like 4 or
doesn't know
5
how to do it
times.
Till you learn to do
Like
it.
that,
It's
Yeah.
not easy.
Yeah.
Then you have to find your own
There you
little
go.
style too, or your own little
Usually I'm too tight.
routine on it.
Right there.
Yeah, you're going to have to hold this because it's going to turn.
Did
There
you
you
go
go.
to school here in Montana?
And then,
I did, yeah.
what do you do? Bring it up?
Yeah, and
I grew up
bring this
here in
hand down a little
Missoula.
bit, so you want to make it,
I went
you want to bring it up so that it's going to be straight out.
Into the university,
This
so.
thread's going to be here, and you're going to make a triangle.
Like
This is
that?
fun
Yep.
for me because I get to learn
Now just
the
let
real
go of that
ways
and
to tie
turn it
flies,
like
'cause I've kinda
this.
taught myself, so,
Let it go.
So
Set
you
that thing,
teach
there you go.
senior high school also then?
yeah.
There you go, good.
And just pull it out.
I
you're
teach
gonna pull this
freshman
one out
kids
first.
mainly, my ninth graders right now.
This one's going to come down and pull out that way.
And you teach what subject?
There you go.
Health and PE.
Now pull the
Oh,
thread.
okay.
There you go.
Okay.
Then I also teach our junior, senior lifetime class, which is where we've been doing some of this
Okay.
fly tying and casting and fishing.
Well, Jim, why is it they don't have a fly fishing club here in Missoula, being as big a?
Maybe they do, I don't
I
know.
think they do.
Oh, you think they do?
I've never really heard about it, you
I think a
know.
lot of the shops have some groups too that are active tying together and doing things.
Yeah, I'd like to find out about it, because I know I've taken classes from guys just because I want to tie, you know, and I've, when you go to something like that, you always pick something up from somebody else.
Right.
You know, Paul Kohler, who has since passed away, was at the Missoulian Angler, and I took a class from him one time, and matter of fact, I took it 2 or 3 times, and every time I went, I picked up something from him, and he was very knowledgeable about ethnology, and which I need to get better at. I'm getting better, but
Now, is your fly finished there?
yeah.
Okay, may I take a look at it?
A little lead wire on these too before you
Yeah, if you want to get them down.
tie them is real effective too.
And you can put a bead head on them if you want. We went to Frenchtown Pond and we're using, a lot of the kids had tied these because it was the first fly that they had tied, and they were catching bass on them. But the bass at that time were spawning. They're on their beds, so it was pretty easy to catch them. And they caught some nice fish.
And they were using woolies, basically?
Mainly.
Okay.
And variations of that. Some of them were using like what we call a cactus bugger, which is so kind of a greeny crystal flash looking thing with a olive marabou tail. And it worked really well. But yeah, yours look really good. The only thing I would suggest, maybe the tail's just a hair long.
Yeah.
You can have it if you want.
I didn't gauge
Thank
it, I
you.
just didn't know.
Oh, boy,
All the
that's
pictures that I
gonna,
seen, they
that's
had
gonna
a
catch
long
me a
tail on
big
it.
fat rainbow, probably.
I like the way they grizzle.
Do you fish that Yellowstone?
See, I like the black
very much at all?
Yeah.
I don't.
You don't?
The
As a kid, I
Yellowstone?
did more than
Yeah, I was just
do now.
wondering if woolies work down in Yellowstone. I mean, normally they work.
Anywhere there's leeches, I think they work.
Well, I'll tell you what, I
The
was.
brown woolly worm, they use there.
About I guess 5 years ago or so, I was fishing Yellowstone, and it was in late September, and God, I went out, and it started to snow like you would not believe. And I went over to the fire hole, and I put a woolly on, and honest to God, just about every cast, I caught a brook trout. And then I couldn't cast, and I thought, well, what's wrong? Well, I have my eyelids were freezing up.
Oh, yeah.
So every once in a while, I'd have to stop and get the ice out of them. But that's one of the best days of fishing I ever had.
I know there's probably been more fish caught on a woolly worm than probably any other fish, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, my uncle floats the Yellowstone all the time, and that's what he uses, just brown woolly worm.
Fishes a woolly,
Yeah.
okay.
And we use the browns and the greens up at
Browns and
Georgetown.
greens, yeah.
And we're experimenting with there's a fly fishing exposition every winter. And Doug, you went to that day.
I didn't make the show.
Oh, that's right. Dave did.
Dave,
But guys, because I fish Georgetown, and he ties a fly called a porcupine fly, which is tied completely different than any hackle fly you'd ever see. And you have to have a gallows tool, and it was really interesting. So I'm anxious to get up there and try it this year.
Now, where is this, George? I've never heard of this lake. Where is it?
It's not very good. I would never go there.
Oh,
Georgetown Lake is 90 miles away,
oh, okay.
and it's you take the Pentler Scenic Route, you turn off at Drummond,
Tight, you know, it's
I'm not familiar.
which is like
That's the
47 miles from Missoula.
47 miles east, just on the I-90.
Oh, so you go back I-90 in Georgetown, Lakes up that way.
Now you take the Drummond exit, and it takes you right through. You go through Phillipsburg.
Now,
It's close to Anaconda, which is near Butte. and then
Right.
It's back. tucked
It's
in.
14 miles west of Anaconda.
okay, do you fish just the lake, or is there a stream coming out of the lake that you fish?
Most of the time I'm fishing just the lake.
Drop that underneath the eye,
Stewart Mill Bay, which is a good fishery, is
wrap around like that. And now I'm gonna
a
have
spring that comes right out of it's on private
It's too
property,
tight.
comes right out of the ground.
That's the
It's really
trouble
kind
that
of
I
neat.
normally have.
And then
And
Georgetown's an artificial lake.
Oh,
It has a dam, and it used to be a big field back in the early 1900s, and they flooded it, really shallow and weedy.
Is it a Corps of
and
Engineers
then
lake?
like that.
I'm not sure if it is.
Okay, but anyway, all right.
It was basically done by the Flint Creek Valley for irrigation.
Okay, so you like to go up and fish that, I take it you have to have a
The other
boat.
way.
You
Not necessarily.
have a boat to get out
Yes.
on?
There's a lot of good wading too, and float tubes are really nice.
Oh,
Sit in
yeah,
a float
okay.
tube.
A lot of people fish from the shore.
There's some really good.
Here like this.
But
There's a
You-
damsel
You
fly
take
hatch,
your
which
kids
is,
out there to fish then, did you say?
And
Okay.
my kids are pretty old now, but,
my kids have
No,
fun.
when I say kids, I mean your high school.
oh, high school kids, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. It's probably one of the
Last
heavier
year-
fish lakes in Montana.
Is it really?
It's a good fish lake, fishery, but last year the kids brought some float tubes, the high school kids, and pontoon boats.
Slide
Right.
it into the tree.
And they had a lot of fun. It worked really well. This year they just fished from shore and they still did pretty good.
Okay.
So,
There you go.
And basically, they were all using woolies?
mostly woolly worm, some of the kids were bait fishing and doing some spinner fishing too. You know,
the other way.
the kids fly fishing mainly had woolly buggers on them
And
and leech.
then just, you
bass.
gotta kind of move your hand. Let me get a hook here.
A lot of kids are,
Yes. Yes.
they'll spin fish, use a clear bobber.
And then
Now, don't get it so
Yes.
tight,
Slide behind that. so
It is
they
too
can cast
tight,
quite a
that's
bit.
but go ahead and make this
It wasn't all
come up
fly
like,
fishing, but-
so you got that triangle, then you just
A
turn
lot of them
it.
are still using
There you go.
flies with the bobber.
That's where I think I was.
That's what I have my
at
own kids do.
before.
They're 10
Yeah.
years old,
Was I was
6
trying to
years
bring it
old.
this way.
You get that, you get that,
We usually have a lot of fun.
the touch, and it gets a lot
So
easier, and
instead of turning
you're
it
not gonna,
This way, you wanna turn it this way to begin with,
Yeah.
and then bring the X.
Yeah, I put it down for 6 months and I gotta pull out a book to see how to do it again.
I'm gonna have to get that book, because I don't like that tool yet.
but there's a bunch of different types of tools, but tie the same knot. There's one that kind of looks like a safety pin. You've seen that one?
Mine
That's what I
looks
learned
like
on.
this. It has a hook like this, then it comes in and has a hook off the side, it has 2 hooks.
Yeah, and it comes back and it actually bends a little bit.
And it does the same thing,
Yep.
the same way.
Yeah. Okay, we ready for the next one?
There's green and brown too, if you guys want to try another one of those for
Yeah.
Jim,
your night.
how did I do?
Looks pretty good.
I should probably take that and try it and see if it works.
Yeah. Maybe, most people when they first start tying, crowd the head of the fly.
This hackle.
And that's the number one problem people have, but you didn't do that, that's good.
Did I
Matter of fact, you
not
could,
crowded enough?
maybe just a little bit,
Yeah.
but that looks good, yeah. You'll catch fish with that.
Well, that looks just like one I bought at Orvis.
Buy this one.
Yeah, there you go. So, you want to tie a gray hackle peacock?
Yeah, I'll get you.
Let me pass those hooks and the peacock, and
I got some little baggies, you wanna put
12s?
that in? or-
I can just maybe throw it in here too, I think. Yeah, we're going to tie in
These 6s are a little easier to tie.
Yeah.
we're going to tie in a size 12.
God, I don't know how this guy, I met a guy he said he was fishing the San Juan River down in New Mexico. And he was using 22s, and they were little tricos. And I said, God, I couldn't put a tippet through that eye at 22, size 22. I said, and plus I could never see the thing.
Excuse me.
I like the San Juan worm.
That's a toughie to tie.
You see the metal ones they got?
I've never used a San
They're
Juan
big
worm, do
red
they really
metal.
work?
And they're tied
Really
the same
good?
way.
They say they work really well.
It's just all metal.
They haven't been real friendly to me
Really heavy.
personally.
Huh,
But I got guys that swear by them,
Really
and I
money
still
up
watch
rock
them use
creek.
them all the time.
I was at
using it as a
the
dropper.
Kingfisher, I was
Yeah,
at a
with
fly
that
tying
fly on
class there
top.
one time. And the question that they were asking everybody, do you not use San Juan worms for ethical reasons? Or,
Because they feel sorry for the fish.
because it's too easy to tie or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
It was kind of interesting because I took a class 2 weekends ago in Hamilton on watershed, streamside watershed, and really interesting. But the part I liked best, we went out and collected the bugs and stuff. And the San Juan worm actually imitates a tubiflex worm. And tubiflex is one of the worms that's supposed to have carried the wasting disease.
Really?
Yeah, and I didn't realize that wasting disease, which is affecting a lot of the waters in western Montana, can stay buried in the mud for like 30 years.
Wow.
So No, that's why they want you to wash your
Is wasting like the swirling disease?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
whirling disease.
Whirling, yeah.
What did I say, wasting? I've been teaching AIDS too much.
Yeah,
Okay, so
whirling.
you meant the swirling disease.
Yeah, they call it whirling disease.
Whirling disease, yeah.
Pardon?
It's not, it's whirling, not swirling. But, with a W.
Whirling disease,
Whirling.
that's right, whirling disease, yeah.
But it was really fun. Yeah, but
This guy I met, he's lived in a motorhome for 8 years. I said, "Where are you from?" He said, "North America." I said, he laughed, he said, "I don't mean to be smart," he said, but he said, "I've lived in my motorhome for 8 years and I just go from fishing hole to fishing hole." He said, "I do the San Juan in the spring, I come up here in the summer, head down to other places." He said, I just travel from river to river."
Is he married?
not now.
What'd you say?
Not anymore.
Is he married?
Yes, he is.
Really?
Well, he had his wife with him,
Wow.
and she was sitting there on the bank reading while he was fishing.
And she doesn't fish and
She doesn't fish, because I first walked up and she was sitting
That's
there
a nice
reading,
lady.
and she said, "Yeah, my husband went up the river." That was on that Rapid Creek over in South Dakota. And then, so I started fishing, and I started fishing up, and pretty soon he was fishing down, and we stopped and talked the longest time, and that's when he said that he had been on the road for 8 years. I guess you don't have any upkeep on your house, or
No.
heating bills, or anything?
Uh,
I gotta think yes is.
There's a couple ways you can tie this. You can tie it, and
It's probably not going quite as
we're
far.
going to be using peacock herl, and peacock herl's not very durable. But there's a couple ways that you can make it a little bit more durable. You're going to make a rope, basically make a rope out of it. So you can tie the tail. You're going to put the tail in first, just like we did with the woolly bugger.
What are you using for a tail?
We can either use moose.
There's some moose.
I got some right here, the good stuff.
Okay.
And then we can use fiber, grizzly fiber, by just taking this.
Spreading it out.
Yeah, and then an easy way to do it is to bend it like that,
I'm going upstairs, I'll be right back.
and then grab it like that and just strip it out.
Pretty good, I'll tell you.
And then it comes up.
You gonna use hair?
I'm going to use this because I want to show you the stacker.
Take these glasses off and I wanna
yeah, I
see
couldn't
eye.
do that. I couldn't do it.
I
And
couldn't.
you want to use that, or you want to use moose?
I'll use some of this.
Okay, you're going to just take a little bit. You want to cut right down by the hide.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you're going to take you want to get the shorts, I call them the shorts, out of there. And I'm going to clean that up, get the underfur out. Now your stacker is just a,
I've
Little
got a
div-
little pad on the bottom of it.
yeah, this one does too.
Yeah, that was just a little wore out.
Oh, that, from your grandfather stuff?
Oh, no. Well, no, his didn't come with a stacker. It was like a kit in a box.
Wow.
I had like 30 little baggies of different stuff, Marabou and Chanel and all that stuff, and different feathers. Well, then I tied a few, and I was like, I need some better stuff. I didn't have a stacker.
Those things to thread,
His-
Robert.
You know, his,
I don't, I think,
The stacker really evens them out, it makes your flies
Yeah.
so much better,
yeah.
especially your hair flies like elk and deer and things like
Well, you know,
that.
I had
yep.
his bobbin, and every turn it'd snap it, and I was going, I can't be that retarded. So I
bobbins-
got one that has a
Ceramic,
ceramic insert in it.
yeah, they're good. Yeah, eventually the ones that don't have ceramic are going to burr up and they'll break the thread all the
Yeah.
time.
'Cause I
A
got
lot
to
of
looking
them.
at that thing, and there, sure enough, there was a barb in there.
Yeah. But you take that moose and you're going to put the tips of the moose hair down and just tap a little bit. But you don't, like when you do an elk and deer, especially elk, you don't have to tap that much because you'll actually break the tips of the elk off. So just want to tap a little bit. We get kids in there that, the table's just bouncing up in the air, but,
I don't like.
You can
messing
actually
with this,
break
that
the tips
calf
off?
hair.
oh yeah,
Calf hair is kind of frustrating.
really slick.
Yeah, and just,
That stuff really, like when you're making like wings,
yeah.
yeah.
It looks good when it's done, but.
I've gotten a more poly thread.
Synthetic.
Yeah. Anyway, you take that moose, and you're going to measure again the shank length. That's how long you want that tail. And ideally, when a dry fly rides in the film of the water. The tail's going to touch, the underside of the barb is going to touch, and then the top of the hackle are going to touch. So that's why I'm saying the proportions are really important. There are a couple little tricks you can do, and I'll show you one of them, and test your flies. I was always taught that it was a cardinal rule to cut your hackle. But I was at a fly tying expo one time, and this gentleman showed me that if your hackle becomes too big and you drop the fly, it should land upright. It should land on the tail, that underside of that barb, and then on the hackle. If the hackle's too big, it's oversized, you can clip a little V section out underneath, and it really makes a difference about how the fly lands, and it's always upright. You don't end up getting your hook to the side or upside down even. But you want to do a shank length. And I like to take that up a little bit, about 3/4 of the shank of the hook, just so because it's, I want to build that body a little bit because I'm going to be putting some peacock curl on there. And peacock is, like I said before, is a little bit, it's kind of delicate actually. Take that extra mousse, you're going to pull it back, and just clip it off. When I'm tying wing flies, like with calves body and stuff like that, I'll tie the wings in first,
Yeah.
just so I get my proportions right. This fly is not so
A lot of
important.
books say that too. They'll wrap your thread on, go ahead and put your wings on, come back to the tail.
People have a tendency to really crowd the head on dry flies. Okay, you want about 2 or 3 strands of peacock curl. Oops.
I don't know if I gave you guys enough there. You can grab some more.
I got it. So you can get this stuff wet too. And
I think peacock curl is great stuff.
Now, this is where I most frequently break the thread, is tying on hair.
wrap on the hook.
And I don't know, it seems to me like I still never get it tight enough.
See, moose is not hollow, so you can kind of really torque on moose, and just as long as it doesn't roll around the hook on you.
Yeah, it seems to me like it's not rolling too bad, but
Then you
still, yeah, well, it's rolling pretty good. And to avoid that, you just start more toward you then, so that when it does roll, it,
Well, that pinch method, yeah. Basically, you're making a loop and coming back around and pulling up. And what it does, it's rather than roll it around the hook itself, the shank of the hook, as you bring it around and then you bring it up, it just brings it straight down onto the hook and you kind of pinch it there. And it stays a lot easier.
Get in the habit of just rolling your fingers forward, holding the hair back here, and then just kind of roll it forward when the thread comes up. You got that, and then just roll it forward and it'll pinch, and then it makes that loop, and you get it pulled tight.
There's a lot of great bodies that are made with that peacock curl. Like with Renegades and this gray hackle peacock is a good fly. This is a great fly for it's easy to tie. My grandsons, and I'll put one of these on, and they catch just as many fish as anybody.
If you don't want to stay afloat, just get some other ones I'd use a good hackle on, just instead of this stuff, or use dubbing for body.
Mhm.
It seemed like it floated a lot better than that.
I don't know. It doesn't trap any air, so I don't know what it would be. But I make a rope out of mine, and I'll just take this and wrap it around the thread itself. And then kind of hold it. And I like my bodies tapered. I like them small at the back and bigger at the front. So I'll go back over itself a little bit. Oops. Like that. think it'd be kind of fun to have a club, a fly tying club, because you pick up so many different little techniques and stuff from people. And there were several of us a few years back that would get together like once a week and tie, but it kind of fell by the wayside. And this is what's nice about this Whiting 100s. We're tying on a size 12 hook, and these are all sized for you. And so proportions are going to be basically pretty easy. And like a hackle like this, you're going to be able to tie like 4 or 5 flies on, or more. But again, shiny side, dry flies. A lot of people like to have their dry flies with the fibers coming so that they actually go forward out over the eye, because they think the floatability is so much better. So if you want that to happen, then you want to tie with the shiny side back. So I strip off a little bit of those fibers. I'm going to lay it right on across. Tie that in.
Jim, are the beaded,
Bead heads?
yeah, anyway, I'm having a senior moment here.
You wouldn't use a bead head on a dry fly.
Pardon?
You wouldn't use
No, that's right. Are they that much more expensive than buying just the regular hooks?
I don't know. I was taught that a bead head was a fad.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and a lot of the guys were using like tungsten and lead to weight their flies. And then the bead heads came out and people had success with it and it really caught on. A lot of the guides that I know will have a bunch of bead heads in their fly boxes, but a lot of times they'll just have their clients use them because they say that bead heads are okay. And
I don't know, I'll tell you that bead-headed prince, I've caught a lot of trout on that thing. So I don't know, it may be a fad, but I just really,
Well,
I think it
I use them.
works.
I tie them and use them.
Yeah.
But the guy told me, like Paul Kohler, who when they first, that's when I was taking the class when the bead heads first started to come out, thought that they were a fad, and he indicated that he doesn't have a bead head in his box. So who knows? They catch fish and people have confidence in them. Heck, go for it.
You put all 4 of this peacock together and wrap it as a single piece?
Yeah, I use 3, but I just wrapped it around the thread itself and then wrap the thread around the hook.
Oh. Wrap it around the thread.
So you're making a rope.
And what fly are you tying here?
Gray hackle peacock.
Gray hackle peacock, okay.
And again, the materials make the fly. This is a good fly for like small streams. And it'd be fun to get into some flies like caddis flies and elk hair caddis and things like that. But
What type of hatches do you have in the summer up here?
well,
Like,
you've got
do PMDs, do you have the PMDs that come off the water?
pale morning duns. We have
Okay.
Right now, we got the giant salmon fly.
salmon flies are coming off now. Fishing's
Which
gonna be-
flies?
Salmon fly.
Oh, is this, okay.
They look like a
That's coming
B29.
up. It's supposed to be getting hot on Rock Creek right now as the salmon flies are moving up.
And on which,
On
Rock Creek.
on Rock Creek? And how big of a salmon fly do you use?
Yeah, they're
Ones out
about
right now are like
Oh,
2 inches
really?
sometimes.
That big?
They're
they
huge.
use like a styrofoam body, like a foam body.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different.
There's a bunch of different ways. I mean,
That little technique is like if you take that fly and you drop it, it should land upright every time. And what that gentleman taught me is if you take and if it doesn't if your hackle's too big and it doesn't drop correctly, you want to take your scissors and right underneath the eye, cut a little V out, just like that. And then it should land upright every time.
Oh, I see. Kind
Little
of,
yellow
it has two legs on it, so to speak.
Yeah, you just cut the V out right here.
Oh,
Then the Clark Fork typically has real good caddisfly fishing in the evenings, coming up here for the next.
Yeah, but this hackle is really good, you don't have to do that, you can just wrap and wrap and wrap, as long as you don't wrap over yourself and mat it down.
Now, the Rock
But
Creek
it-
is somewhere right around here, isn't it?
Rock Creek's about 25 miles east of Missoula,
Okay.
off I-9.
Okay.
Right now, they're floating it quite a bit. There's still quite a bit of water coming down it, but it's starting to get clear.
It's running really fast, but it's clearing.
Did you float it, or did you?
I just waded out into it.
I've never personally floated it, but I guess it can be a kick this time of year when
I
the
don't know.
big bugs are on. Then the Blackfoot River,
I didn't wrap very many times.
which is east of town up
You have
Highway
enough hackle,
200.
again, your tail's just a little bit
It'll
big.
also
and
have a
long.
good salmon fly. Salmon fly hatch through up to the mid part of June.
Some of those guys in the smaller, they say, that's a lot right there. That's a lot
But
of
the Clark Fork
tail.
offers really, really good evening dry fly fishing with the caddis.
So even with the river as high as it is, these salmon flies are coming off.
That's what I understand, is they're starting to come off. Yeah, they're
Okay.
starting to come off.
The bitterroot's getting a nice little, or Blackfoot's getting a nice little hatch. Salmon flies too, they're coming up a little bit later, aren't they?
Yeah, I think that's what I was just saying, that in it'll be a couple weeks later than Rock Creek usually, and then it'll go just a little bit later into the June there, but.
And fishing's really been improving on the,
And are the salmon flies, have they been fishing that nymphing net, or are they using dry flies or both?
both.
dry, well, right now, when their flies come out, they're using both, but mostly just dry flies.
Okay.
A lot of guys will hang a dropper off their big salmon fly. You know, something that imitates a stone fly
Okay.
underneath their drop, underneath their big drop. So like you were saying, I think you were saying you were fishing a dropper.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
That big old salmon fly is a pretty nice one to hang a dropper off of.
Yeah, it's amazing, amazing. When we went back to Alabama for the Future Fisherman Foundation, there was a mayfly, and our mayflies, you know, they're kind of gray, and most of them, and they're not very big. These things were like this, and they're bright green,
Really?
and you couldn't even breathe. It was unbelievable. You'd look down your leg, and they'd just be covered with green. It was a neat experience. I'm glad we got a chance to go. But our next teaching progression would be we're about out of time, I think, aren't we? Or do we have time to do more? Our next teaching progression would be like an Adams fly, where we put wings on the fly, and then we go to like a bastard Adams, which is like elk hair wings and elk hair tail on Adams. And then, of course, you know, you could evolve eventually into deer hair, doing the humpy thing. And,
That's tricky.
yeah, humpy's really hard to get proportions on.
Hard to spin
And
that hair
this
like that.
fly,
Yeah.
Doug, imitates what fly?
I don't know, what does it imitate, Jim?
Just a regular old house fly, I think.
Okay.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
think it has a real specific purpose.
It's just an easy fly to tie.
It's kind of like the
Okay.
prince nip, kind of a multi-purpose thing. I think,
Okay.
that looks like a bug, you know.
And a lot of times when they start biting on something, they're going to bite on anything sometimes.
I don't think I have any salmon flies. Which would be the best fly shop to probably get a salmon?
We have some great fly shops.
So
I
it
mean,
doesn't really
You
matter.
could go to Sportsman's Warehouse, Sportsman's Surplus, Grizzly Hackle,
Kingfisher.
Kingfisher's really good, Missoulian Angler,
Yeah.
Bob Ward's is good.
If you like them 79-cent flies, Bob Ward's, that's where to go.
Sportsman's surplus, I mean,
They're
they'll all give you some examples
Okay.
and some ideas.
And they're all very knowledgeable.
Which one is in reserve? Is that the Sportsman's
Warehouse.
Warehouse?
The big one, yeah.
Kiesel's is also, Kiesel's
I like
Fly
going
Shop's
there.
also.
That's
in
what a
reserve.
guy told me today. I was talking to him, and he said
Three Rivers.
Kiesel And I guess he's down towards Hamilton, Kiesel is, or?
He's on Reserve Street.
In Missoula.
Oh, that's
Here
right,
in
he's on
Missoula.
reserve,
Yeah.
that's right. And he said Kiesel is a really good fly fisherman.
The Kingfisher, I know, has helped Jim out quite a bit with setting the school up with equipment. And the
Okay,
Kingfisher's right over here on Broadway. They're typically pretty helpul with anything you're
okay,
doing.
Kingfisher it's called.
Yeah, they're right across from Albertsons up here.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I went in there last summer.
They're very knowledgeable, and really nice guys.
Okay,
And they've come and have given demonstrations, fly casting demonstrations for the kids, and
Yeah, they've come into Kathy's class too, my wife's class.
yeah, they're excellent. So, but you know, you get into like deer hair and elk hair, it's a completely different story. And you know, what we tie in class, we really haven't gotten into what we want to do actually, because we're teaching our curriculum, and a lot of times it doesn't afford us the opportunity to spend much time doing this. And I always wanted to do a fly fishing club, but since this is the only year we could have done it, because last year the grant did not allow us to have a club. We had to have just I taught a class to the faculty. I also taught a class to all the sophomores and then the leisure sports kids. And it's kind of funny how people react to you're doing what? You're fly casting, you're tying flies, you're taking the kids where? Fishing? And that they don't understand that, you know, leisure sports, you want to get those kids out and you want to make sure that if they're interested in that and become stewards of the river and
I think we get a few kids that have never really had a chance, and they get a little taste of it, and then it's something they pursue in the future, and I think it's a great deal to get them started on.
so if you started a club, Jim, you'd meet like after school?
Yes.
Or in the evening or
We could have
Do
done that this year,
lunchtime or
but
after
it's just
school.
time didn't afford us
Yeah.
a chance to do that. And there's some real avid high school fly fishermen. I wish Connor could have come tonight. Connor Van Fossen was in the class, and he was going to come tonight and give his presentation on rod building, and he's excellent. He did a fantastic job for his senior project. Our seniors have to do a senior project when they graduate, and it's supposed to be a learning experience for them, and which incorporates some community service. And he made a fishing rod, and he's going to make another one. He'll come in like at noon. If I have my stuff at school, he'll just come in and start and tie a little bit during noontime or after school. And he would have been here tonight, but he is receiving the business award at the high school, and he also was Missoula's outstanding athlete this year. And he got third place in the javelin last week at the state meet. And
So we couldn't miss the award night.
he was going to
You
skip
gotta
the
send the
awards
Air
night
Force
and come here, but
too.
I said, no, you
Oh,
better
he's
go to
gonna
the awards
Air
night.
Force
Going to the
Oh,
Air
God,
Force.
he's a top notch.
Yeah, he's going to the Air Force.
I had laughed, my kids went to a high school in Dallas that required 25 hours of service, community service work, and you start as a freshman. Well, you know, they think, oh, well, I've got 3 years to go. Well, about a week before graduation, I was a construction supervisor for a Habitat for Humanity house. So I went into the school and I said, all you kids that need community service hours, come on out Saturday. God, I'd have 25, 30 kids show up that needed 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours. Some of them, they needed 25 hours. They hadn't done any. So it was unbelievable how boy, I used to fill that construction site with those kids a week before graduation. We'd get a lot of work done. They were good workers.
Our administration has really been supportive of this project, our principal, and so it's been,
Of community service work.
yeah, even in the fly fishing, fly tying.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think all these kids, thanks Doug, I think all these kids ought to do community service work. I think it's great.
At one point, I think I was ended up doing like 25 hours a week
and some community service for somebody, for somewhere, just, helping out.
Yeah.
I did that for like 2 years.
Thank you guys a lot.
Well, I wish we could have done a little bit more, but
Thanks to Jim.
Hey, listen, this
He's
was
the expert.
great. I really enjoyed watching. you
Jim is no
guys.
expert. Jim just likes to do it. Jim likes to fish.
Jim's actually retiring, he's kind of turning part of it over to me.
Yeah, so if you guys ever-
I'm in training, and I have a lot of pressure on me.
So next year, are you doing it, or?
Well,
are you
next
still
year,
gonna
he's going to be
around
my
this?
guest speaker every time I need to do it.
Big shoes to fill.
I'm-
Doug.
I
I'll
think
take care of the equipment for a while.
I think, I like doing this, and I like the kids, and I'll probably go back and help a little bit. I'll be Doug's assistant
You're
next year.
darn right you will.
Doug, let me have one of those cups.
Where'd you get that rice at?
I got that I think I got it at Kingfisher. They're like 210, I think. It's a.
I think Jim could put on a
Dyna King.
few demonstrations too.
Renzetti's
No,
are
I don't
good,
think so.
but I looked at the quality of this, and I really liked it.
That's what I am. I've got some little secrets at home that.
That's
go
just,
well
it
with
takes,
Have you got the cameras on me?
like your thread, and come, and just
Good,
keeps your thread out of the way.
Thanks for coming by tonight, guys, we sure appreciate it. Come back to the Missoula Public Library again someday.
Jim, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yeah,
Appreciate
good
it. Really appreciate it.
Hey,
Thank you. That was
Thank you for
really
coming. I
interesting.
appreciate it.
Enjoyed it. Doug.
Thanks.
Maybe we'll see you in the river.
Yeah, thank
Jim
you very
Kelly.
much.
you bet.
So
You
you're-
gonna be in
you're-
town for very long?
3 months.
Oh,
Yeah, I
so that's a fishing
came
camp.
up here to get away from the Austin, Texas. heat.
Good luck on those
Yeah.
flies, I hope they work. You find some more? All right.
Good luck, Jim.
If we'd have known you guys were already tires, we could have done some.
Yeah, he told me they were all really beginners, you guys
I
are
didn't
way
meet
ahead.
you. I'm Bill Smith.
Bill Smith, Richard Gordon.
Richard, nice to meet
Nice to
you.
meet you. Well, I just started tying 2 weeks ago.
Really, you're doing good. Really good.